Without that element of personal freedom, what is the point? What is the purpose of having wealth if we're not our authentic self? If we aren't positioned confidently to say, I am uniquely created and hardwired to serve and support in this world and contribute in the way that only I can. And I'm comfortable doing that.
If you're not conscious about your investment strategy, you won't end up where you want to be, not financially or as a human. On this show, we interview highly successful investors and share how they overcame limitations to become unstoppable forces of success. If you're ready to learn what it is to be a conscious investor so you can end up where you want, keep listening.
Hey, conscious investor, how's it going living in the age of information? Wowzers, we have so much available to us. You've heard me talk about utilizing AI recently, and I've had my stuff going on LinkedIn where I've really looked at the authenticity component of things. I really wanted to talk about the influences that we have throughout this age of information. And really, truly, it's now time that most of us are going to have to rise up and fight our own Goliath. What does that even mean, Julie? I know I was thinking about that this morning as I was having my quiet time, and I was thinking about some of the things that I've experienced over the last couple of weeks and how they've impacted my life. Let me back up a little bit and can we admit, maybe I will admit, and if this resonates with you, shoot me a message. I would absolutely love that. Let me know if you read voraciously, maybe even compulsively. I might fit that. Maybe you listen to podcasts and you are an over consumer of podcast content or YouTube content. Maybe you are an event junkie and a meetup junkie, and you are constantly going. I've noticed that it's really easy for us to go and pick up all these bits and pieces of information, and we just hoard them together. But what ends up happening is that they end up really becoming part of us and not in the best way possible. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, right? Because it seems that all of this information should be coming to us. It should be good and we should be able to make better decisions. But the reality is that most of us aren't taking the time to assimilate and to say, yes, this is part of me. No, this is not part of me, and that needs to go. Most of us are just simply collecting and hoarding all of this information around us. It is weighing us down. And that's how this relates to Goliath. I'm in the middle of, the Conscious Investor Growth Summit. It is coming up in Conscious Investor. I hope to see you there. There are so many insecurities that come up in organizing and putting on such a big event. There's a lot of money on the line, so please buy your tickets today. I'm not kidding, but kind of kidding. And so I want just all of that. It can feel like this just weight and this pressure, and the fun can go away. And it feels like I'm having to do things in a way that, once again, is not authentic to who I am. It feels like, or it felt like, I need to go through this process and I need to listen to what all these other people say, and I need to do it their way. And you know what happened? I became extremely stressed out of my mind. The joy was gone. The fun was gone. The play of it all was gone. The excitement to see you there, conscious investor, and to serve you powerfully. And it was all just vaporizing because I was trying to fit somebody else's shoes. Now, all of these things are not bad, right? We listen to podcasts, we read books, we get all of this information for a reason. We need that information. We need to bring it into our lives. But then we have to draw a line and we have to say, what is for me, and what works with who I am created to be? What aligns with my authentic self? And guess what? That also means that we have to look at our authentic self and say, I might be transitioning in this part of who I am, and this may be my authentic self, and it just feels a little uncomfortable. That's okay. You might remember the Bible story about David and Goliath. People tell it even if they don't go to church. A lot of people are familiar with the story about a young King David. I think he's around, somewhere between 13 and 15. And he goes to the battlefield to take food to his brothers. And there's Goliath, who's literally like this giant of all giants. He's a Philistine. And, like they have to, the Philistines are taunting the Israelites. And it's just this really sad situation. And the Israelites don't think they can overcome Goliath. And Goliath is just, egging them on. And here, this young young David, not king at the time, comes on the scene. And he's like, well, man, why aren't you guys trusting God? I can't even believe you're letting him say this about the God that we worship and love. Like, no, let's go take him out. I sign myself up. I will go do that. These are my words, not my interpretation of the story, right? Clearly. And so they finally say, okay, yeah, you go do this. And they load him up with this armor. And he becomes just weighted down in this armor that doesn't fit him correctly. It is too heavy for his frame. It's not something that he is used to wearing. And so he doesn't have the same agility and movement that he had before. He's just being out there, shepherding and watching the flocks and, just in simple clothes and using his slingshot and such. And it's like, wow, okay, this doesn't work. And he did something very bold, very courageous. He took the armor off. He said, no, I get that works for y'all. That doesn't work for me. He got the information. He tried it on, and then he made a decision. That doesn't work for me. No, thank you. And he put himself in an even more vulnerable position. Now he's going out against a giant without any fancy armor on with a little slingshot. Seriously? And it feels that way when we step out into our authenticity and when we dare to be ourselves and who we are uniquely created to be by God. When we do that, it can feel scary. It can feel like we're going to fight a Goliath without the armor of what everybody says. I'm going to say some things, and this is going to sound absolutely really outlandish. I'm quite certain of it. I didn't even write this down in the notes that I usually have notes to my side. And I didn't write this down, but think about this. How many people say you're not living life correctly if your retirement account isn't maxed out? If you're not maxing out your 401k every year and you don't have a Roth IRA and you don't have an account for your kids' college and you don't have this and you don't have that. Okay, those are all good things. Those are all really important things. I'm not saying that those are not good things. But for some people, they become so focused on the pursuit of those things that it becomes weight that holds them down from the most important things in their life. Maybe all of those gaps will get filled in if they're living their authentic life. But because they're not, they are just weighted and bogged down, not contributing their greatest gifts to the world. Because, well, I have to get this and I have to do that. And these things are a must in my life. We become chasing after those things. And it's a lack of faith and trust that the life that God created and prepared for us is going to give us and supply us with absolutely everything that we need. That takes a substantial amount of faith and trust. I mean, especially when we're thinking about retirement and, I like real estate investing for that reason and such. So I understand that sounds crazy talk, right? But how many other parts of our life do we stack the cards and we become so focused and consumed that we're not moving in a nimble way? We're not moving in an authentic way. And we're going out on the battlefield of life. And we're actually more vulnerable than if we weren't doing those things. I know for me, I sometimes struggle with the content that I create on the podcast. Maybe not so much here because, at Conscious Investor, you guys make me feel so comfortable just being able to share these thoughts freely. And I appreciate that. I know that because you leave me these awesome ratings and reviews that just remind me like, no, keep it up, keep going. But sometimes on social platforms, You may have noticed if you follow me on social platforms, I've been very different the last few months. I've been kind of quiet the last few months. And part of that quiet was I needed to just step back, and that's okay. I feel very comfortable in that. But the other part of that quiet was I felt so much pressure. I have to create this type of content and that kind of content. And I'm supposed to do this, and it just became so overwhelming that I felt like it wasn't myself. And so instead of actually doing what I normally do and creating content to serve and support, I actually stopped. It weighted me down. It took me out of the game of service to others. We need to be extremely aware of what is influencing us, about what we are pursuing, because that will erode our personal freedom. And in that process, it will more than likely erode our financial freedom. Because even if all the bank accounts were all, filled to the brim and overflowing, without that element of personal freedom, what is the point? What is the purpose of having wealth if we're not our authentic self? If we aren't positioned confidently to say, I am uniquely created and hardwired to serve and support in this world and contribute in the way that only I can. And I'm comfortable doing that. If we can't do that, but we have all the money, do we really win? Is that really worth it? I want to encourage you, conscious investor, over the coming week. I want to encourage you to raise your level of awareness. Where are these areas of influence coming into your life? Are you being bogged down? Are you being weighted down by a bunch of shoulds? I should do this. I should do that. I should do this. And instead of living I must live in that vulnerability. I must live in that authenticity. And it might look messy to the world, but I trust God has my best interest at heart, and this is going to work out really, really well. True story. When I chose to, not unanimously, but when Super Ed Steve and I chose it, I was going to stay home with our kids. We were not in the very best financial position at all. Fortunately, our first investment property paved the way and completely changed our lives, and the ability for me to be able to stay at home when my guy was born. But with that process, it didn't make much sense on paper. I could have stayed employed. I could have there's so many things that we should have done according to a lot of other people. But we chose what we felt like we must do. And that is different for everyone. I'm not saying that that's the choice everybody has to make. So please hear me on that. But we felt that the must for us was what we must do this for our guy. Yeah, it doesn't look right on paper to everybody. And yeah, this isn't going to look just so, but this is where we believe we need to be. And in that, there has been so much blessing. For you, that might look like a transition with your current career. Maybe it's a full 180 and you leave one career and transition into another career altogether. Maybe it's I'm going to trust this process and I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to create content to share with the world. There's so many different ways that this can show up in your life. So I want to encourage you, conscious investor, to fight your Goliath and to do it in the vulnerability of who you're created to be, because actually who you were created to be is where your strength is, because that's how you're made. And that's where you're going to thrive. You are so awesome, conscious investor. And I appreciate you so much more than you probably realize. I hope that you have an extraordinary week. And you know what? Please don't be a stranger. I'm not just sitting here on this side of the microphone, creating this content just to put it out, I create this content because I care about you and I want to support you in your endeavors. So if you are looking to take your first or next step in real estate investing, if you are looking to make a transition in your life and you're like, I want more personal freedom, reach out to me, because we might have a way to work together. And guess what? If I can't serve you and support you, more than likely, I know somebody who can because I have the best network of people in my life. They are extraordinary people, and I refer people out all the time. So head on down to the show notes and let's schedule a time so that we can get together and get to know each other. Until next time, remember, adventure belongs on the trail, not in our investing, and definitely not in our personal lives. So until next time, have fun chasing after personal and financial freedom.